Hey, what's up, guys? Just bringing you another video for any NLC students or any NLC future students that are still thinking about going or not. Just wanted to talk about more about myself, like about my background. And um, this is Fernando, by the way. He is 10 months. So
Nice.
Uh, I think I'm 27 years old. I forget. 27, 28, I don't know. No, I'm turning 28 this year. Okay, anyways. So, the way that I grew up in Palmdale, California. Um, I was born in Inglewood, and then after a year, my parents moved here, and I've been pretty much lived here my whole life. Um, I kind of grew up in a middle class, middle class. Um, not something like a gated community or I thankfully we didn't struggle to have food on the table. My dad came from working at UCLA. He worked at a HVAC type of background, and my mom, she worked at a school district. Oh, drooling. And yeah, they've been working there since I was a baby. So I have one sister. She's about, I think she's like 31 now or 32. I don't know. And um, didn't really grow up with like living on the farm or anything like that. That's more my wife. She kind of grew up that way. And when you talk about grit, she has that type of thing. I don't really have that. I'm more of, like, yeah, I help my dad once in a while, fixing the fridge or working on the air conditioning, being in the attic. Um, we built the patio cover out here at their house, and it was really a lot of like very common tools. Yeah, mow the lawn and stuff, but nothing crazy, not like other people. Um, I didn't really grow up that way. Um, so another thing too. I mean, I did sports. I was in swimming since the age of 5, and I did soccer since I was 6 years old. So being in sports was a big thing. You know, kept us busy during the winter and during the summer. And if it wasn't for sports, I would never have that mentality where just keep going, even if you're tired. And staying focused is probably a big one. If you're that tired, you know, it's okay to take a break here and there, but definitely a big aspect in my life as far as sports, you know, playing in a competitive level. Um, when it came to like junior high, I was more into the soccer, took a break from swimming, and then once became into high school, it was the other way around. Took a break from soccer and then did competitive swimming in high school. It was great. It was fun. A lot of team type of effort, even in swimming. It was fun and having fun. And another thing too was I got into martial arts a little bit. Um, did very very small basic boxing here and there. I did boxing with my friend Ernie, great guy. He's done it since he was like in 7th grade, 8th grade, and he taught me a few things here and there, very very basic stuff. And then got into jujitsu. That was fun. Did that for about a year. That was great. And here and there, I roll with some friends, and that also teaches you a few things. Even, because I started, I want to say, like 3 years ago into jujitsu, or 4 years ago. I'm not sure. I think it was 3 years ago. And it also teaches you to be uncomfortable, especially for this trade, for this type of industry. Being uncomfortable, you just gotta get used to it. And martial arts, when I got into jits, um, that was kind of miserable, just because I've never dealt with, a gym that had no no AC. It's during the summertime, and in the desert it gets hot, and we're rolling, we're wrestling, and it gets sweaty and it gets nasty, and you get people sweat in your eye and your mouth, and it's just like, it's unintentional, but it's disgusting sometimes, and ah, and he's exploring, and yeah, I mean, like, getting used to that, doing that every single day for about a year, like, it does change your mindset a little bit, and then, it's just like, all right, whatever, it's just another day. So that definitely changed the mentality that I have, just getting used to that uncomfortableness. So, that's another thing too. Like, if you're able to adapt, it's much easier to just kind of get into something new, as far as like this industry. If you're not used to that type of environment, if you're not used to tools, because I was never used to tools. I'm still, like, before I even got to the school, when I was at the first day or the first week of school, I was like, man, I keep forgetting what's a screwdriver, what's a flathead. I'm still just like, oh crap, what's the difference, And so, it was definitely a challenge. So, I worked as a lifeguard when I want to say, I started at 16. Started at around 16 years old. And then I worked there for 2 years, took a break, and then I um, worked one more year as a lifeguard. Then I applied at a clinic. I worked at a clinic for 2 years, just doing registration. And then after 2 years of experience, I went up to working in a emergency room, which was super awesome. I thought about, I know, I thought about going and becoming an RN. But before that, I took classes for EMT. I took class in for EMT. I I finished the class, but I failed it. So even at the last day of the final, and that was the only test that I failed. Everything else I passed, but the final I failed. And then even my professor, she gave me a chance. She texted me that day, like, hey, if you want, go ahead and study for the weekend. Come back on Monday and retake the test. I was like, okay, no, I'm actually just gonna retake the course next semester. It's fine. And I never went back. I was just kind of just not wanting it anymore. So after I took phlebotomy, I passed the course, passed it, it was fine. I just never actually took the classes to be certified within the state. So I never did anything with it. I was great, but I did nothing with it. I just didn't really want to do it. Because I found out that you can only get paid, $30 an hour if you put at least 20 years or 15 years into that type of, field. And I was like, I don't really want to do all that. I don't want to put that much time into it. So I then found out that EMT, they get paid just a little above minimum wage, and that kind of sucks. I didn't want to do that. So then So during this time, I'm working at the clinic, and I took a few classes during ABC, my community college right out here. I took some classes for HVAC since my dad was into that field. It'd be great. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can take some classes, and then, he's pretty up there in not management, but he's put in some about like 25 years, I believe, so far. And so it'd be great just be certified and then get an interview with one of his bosses. That'd be great. But started taking the classes, just not motivated, wasn't interested, and passed the courses and everything, but still wasn't interested. And I passed the courses with like C's, and so um, did nothing with that. And then now that I quit the clinic, I'm going to the ER. Now I'm looking at how RNs work, registered nurses, and I was like, man, that would be cool. They get paid around 40, 45 just to start. I'm like, all right, maybe I could do that. That'd be kind of cool. I had a little bit of knowledge, so I was like, all right, maybe I can just kind of jump into it and see what happens. And then once I started getting into it, I took the first class of, the prerequisites. It was like biology. It was great. I got an A in the class. It was awesome. But I just wasn't that dedicated anymore because after a year working in the ER, I was just kind of not interested in how some of the RNs, like some of the jobs they needed to do. It was just kind of like, man, like I just didn't want to deal with it. And my opinion, this is just my opinion. There's a lot of people out there that just don't deserve your help. And, a lot of them, well, not a lot of them, just some that kind of ruin it for everyone, take advantage of the system. And I just don't agree with it. And I kind of wish we had a say if we treat them or not. So that's just my opinion. But a lot of that, you gotta chill out, dude. And there was it was very controversial for me, and I just lost interest. I didn't want to do it anymore. And definitely a lot of studying too, as far as like the healthcare. There's a lot that goes into it, and yes, cool. I got an A in the class on the first class, but it was just like, man, like there's just a lot of things I just don't understand, and it was hard to understand it. So I lost that type of motivation. Then me and my wife, we talked about saving a lot of money, and then she brought up the idea of like, hey, and she got this from social media, and she shared it with me through Instagram. It was like, hey, look at this couple, look at what they did. And they went homeless to save money to buy a house. And it just started from there, and I was like, well, are you down? Because I am. She said, yeah, I'll do it. So at the time, I had my 2008 Ford Ranger, and I converted the bed, had a little camper on top, a camper shell on top, and I converted it into a bed, and we lived in it for about 3 months. And we, used her car as like a storage too. She had like a 2012 Ford Fusion, and we were living it for 3 months. And during this time, now this is March 2020, and that's when COVID hit. Right before COVID hit, we actually bought this RV that I'm living in right now. And it was right before the pandemic, like 2 weeks before. And we didn't even know that this was even going on because we weren't up to date on the news. So, and it just kind of worked out really nicely because we had our brother-in-law. He knew our situation. He was just like, he offered. He was like, hey, you know what? Like, I'll help you out. Let's try to get this. And it was a good buy. and it's been a good investment so far. It really has, because during that time, my wife, she was pregnant with him, and she was about I want to say 4 months pregnant. So the whole transition, getting an RV, worked out because she was just getting a little too uncomfortable living in that truck in that type of space. So it worked out. Now, a few months later goes by, and then I decided, it's like, man, I want about 5 kids. I want 5 kids. That would be great. I was like, but working at the hospital, I mean, yeah, I was getting paid, $19, but for 5 kids, it's just not enough. I just didn't want to depend on that. So I decided, like, all right, well, I'll do some research, see what happens. I didn't really find anything that I wanted. But then there's a patient that came into the ER, and there's certain information that we need to ask. And one of those questions was, what is your income? And she said, 200,000. I was like, 200,000? Okay. Like, what do you do? And it's like, oh, my husband is a lineman for the helicopters. I was like, whoa, okay, that's weird. I didn't know, like, a NFL has those type of things. Like, okay. And so I started looking into it, and I was like, oh, lineman, power, transmission, distribution. Oh, I didn't know they had such a thing. I never knew that before. Like, I was like, what is this? And started looking into it, and I was like, man, like, all right, like, it actually looks pretty cool. If you were to work on a helicopter crew, if you were to be a lineman, it's like, wow, you actually make pretty good money. It's like, all right, cool, I'll look into it. And so did some Google research, came across the Northwest Lineman College, and it was the first thing that popped up, And I was like, oh, Lineman College. And then, boop, Northwest Lineman College just popped up. I was like, all right, let me look into it. Cool. I know that there was the LA Trade Tech, and I was like, merp, it's all right. You get what you pay for, right? I'm always believed in that. So I was like, all right, this college is 2 times more. I was like, all right, let's see what they have to offer. Didn't really find so much videos on it on the internet, but I gave it a chance. And so so then started looking into the loans and everything, and got into with Sally Mae, and yeah, I mean, everything else is kind of history after that. After going to college, kind of figured out that I was like, all right, I'm actually okay with this, like, being outside. There's a few times it rained, and I was totally fine with it. I was like, oh, screw it, kind of comes with it, right? And what are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? Yeah, you're gonna get stuck. Yeah. Yeah. And so, that's just more about me, how I got into it, and I know. I gotta start taking care of my baby because he's getting cranky, he's getting tired, and he's hungry. So, this concludes this one. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, whatever, go ahead and email me, or just drop it in the comments. Or if there's anything else you guys are wondering, So, yeah, peace out. Fernando says bye because he's upset. Later, guys.